Have you ever had the feeling that the world look at you as if you were a problem? As if you were the one who is wrong? Just why don't you accept the lies that everyone prefer to believe? If yes, know that it is no coincidence. You were chosen. And when you are chosen by God, the world cannot tolerate you. For them, you are a psychopath who has decided to target their tranquility. But the truth is that they cannot support their own lies. The Bible is clear. If the world hates you, know that before you hated me. John 15:18. Jesus Christ has experienced this reality, and if you follow the truth, you too will live it. But there is good news. What today seems to be a condemnation is actually your greatest blessing. In today's video, I will show you because the world fears you because they try to discredit you because they can't stand your silence. And above all, because in the end you will be right. So it remains to the end. Because what you discover today could completely change the way you see yourself and your journey of faith. If you believe in the Word of God and want to continue to receive profound revelations like this, sign up for the channel and activate notifications. And now, let's start. There are people who walk in the world without ever questioning what they see, without ever asking themselves if the reality they live is authentic or only a fragile construction made of accepted lies. Then you are there. One of those who are not satisfied with what is taken for granted, who dare to look beyond the veil of falsehood. But be careful, brother, because when you see the truth and declare it, the world trembles. The Bible is clear, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. John 8:32. But freedom frightens those who have spent their entire life chained to his illusions. That's why, when you bring the light of truth, you do not come accepted with applause, but with suspicious looks, with diffidence, with accusations of being strange, problematic, dangerous. It is the same reaction that the Pharisees had before Jesus Christ. Rather than accepting the truth, they tried to destroy it. When you walk with God, you are no longer a simple spectator in the world, but a reflection of His glory. And what does a mirror do? Reflect. And many can't bear to see their true face. Imagine someone who passed the whole life believing that he is right, honest, coherent, and then you come with your presence, with your testimony of faith, and suddenly their sandcastle collapses. Your existence itself, your choice to follow. Jesus unmasks the hypocrisy of those who say they believe, but live away from the truth. Remember, woe to you, scribes and hypocritical Pharisees, because you are similar to whitewashed tombs. Matthew 23:27. You do nothing wrong, yet they will see you as a problem because they don't want to confront their own falsehood. How many times have you heard words like, "But why are you doing like this? Why aren't you like the others? Can't you simply give up?" This is the price of truth. People prefer reassuring deception to uncomfortable truth. It is easier to believe that everyone is on the right path rather than accepting that perhaps they are walking towards ruin. It is more convenient to keep lies intact than see your world collapse. When Jesus taught, not everyone was ready to listen to him. Many covered their ears, accused him of being possessed, of being a subversive. But he didn't stop, nor you have to stop. You have been called to shake, to wake up, to bring the fire of truth into the world. And not surprising you if some, in their refusal of truth, will choose to attack you, to slander you, to ridicule you. It is the way in which the world defends its lies. If you believe in the Bible, if you walk in the light, you are a danger for those who want to stay in darkness. But don't be afraid. Jesus himself said, "If the world hates you, know that before you hated me." John 15:18. Being hated for the love of truth is a sign that you are on the right path. The world does not attack those who comply, those who follow the mass without asking questions. The world attacks those who get up and proclaim the truth, those who challenge lies and choose to follow God. Therefore, it continues to be a mirror that reflects the truth. Do not lower your head. Do not doubt your path. Know that you are not alone. The prophets were persecuted. The apostles were slandered. Jesus was crucified, but the truth? The truth triumphed. Faith is not for the weak heart, but for those who are ready to resist, fight, to persevere. The question is, are you ready to continue this battle? Are you ready to bring the light, even when the world tries to turn it off? There is something disturbing in the truth, something that uncomfortable who built their lives on fragile foundations. It is like a house erected on the sand. Just a stronger wave, a more impetuous wind, and everything collapses. And you, who walk in the truth, are just that wave, that wind that shakes the marches of deception. The Bible is clear when he says, "And you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." John 8:32. But freedom is not for everyone. Many prefer to remain slaves to a reassuring lie rather than face an uncomfortable truth. And so when you enter their life with your authenticity, with your unshakable faith in God, with your determination to live according to the Bible and not according to the world, you become a threat. Truth is not just an abstract concept. It is a living, powerful force, capable of upsetting minds and hearts. Think about it. Why was Jesus persecuted? Not because it stole, not because it was a criminal, not because it hurt. Indeed, healed the sick, he freed the oppressed, taught love. Still, they hated him. Why? Because he unmasked the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, revealed their lies, put their falsehoods bare. Jesus Christ did nothing but tell the truth, yet the world could not stand it. The light came into the world, but men loved darkness more than light, because their works were evil. John 3:19. And today, brother, isn't it the same thing? Those who live in light are persecuted by those who love darkness. Many think that lies are tools to deceive others, but in reality, the biggest lie is the one that people tell in themselves. They are convinced that they are right, to be right, that you don't need to change. But when you enter their life, bringing the truth with you, all their castle of illusions trembles. And this scares them. Have they ever looked at you with suspicion only? Why don't you follow the mass? Have they ever avoided you only? Why do you live according to the Word of God and not according to the fashions of the world? Have they ever called you fanatic, exaggerated? Only why do you waste to compromise your faith? If yes, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you live in truth, make those who live in the lie feel discomfort, not because you attack them, not because you judge them, but because your existence itself is a silent reproach to their choices. This is the reason why the prophets were persecuted. This is the reason why the apostles were imprisoned, whipped, stoned. Not because they were evil, but because their truth was too powerful to be ignored. Stephanos, full of the Holy Spirit, spoke wisely in front of the Sanhedrin. Yet instead of listening to him, they killed him with sasate, Acts 7:54-60. They could not bear his truth, so they tried to turn it off. And the same happens today. The world does not attack those who mind, attack those who tell the truth. The world has no problems with those who conform, it has problems with those who stand out. That's why you're seen with suspicion. That's why some avoid you, they speak badly of you, try to discredit you. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. On the contrary, it is the confirmation that you are walking in the right path. So how to deal with this reality? What to do when people start to fear only why do you bring truth? The answer is simple. Don't be afraid. Jesus himself said, "If the world hates you, know that before you hated me." John 15:18. You are not the problem. It is what it represents. Don't let their refusal be discouraged. Rather, consider it a sign that you are doing exactly what God called you to do. It continues to bring the light, even when the world tries to turn it off. It continues to proclaim the truth, even when they try to suffocate it. Because the truth, brother, cannot be stopped. It can be derisive, it can be persecuted, it can be fought, but in the end it will win. And you? Are you ready to continue walking in the light even when the whole world tries to turn it off? Strange, right? The same people who say they hate you to find you annoying, not to endure you, are precisely those that observe you most closely. They criticize you, but never stop looking at you. They deride you, but then imitate your words, your gestures, your choices. They say they don't count anything, yet they dedicate so much time to talk about you, it is no coincidence. This world is full of people who, instead of recognizing what is missing in their life, try to destroy those who have found their own way. It has always been like this. The Bible teaches us that envy is one of the most poisonous roots of the human heart. Ira is cruel, and the fury is overwhelming. But who can resist in front of envy? Proverbs 27:4. That's why your enemies seem so obsessed with you, because inside them they know that you have something they don't have. Think about it. Who were the main opponents of Jesus? Sinners? No. It was precisely those who considered themselves righteous, perfect, best. The Pharisees observed him continuously. They looked for every opportunity to take him to the foul, to criticize him, to find a reason to accuse him. Still, nobody spent a lot of time studying every word as they are. Why? Because after all, they knew that Jesus had something they could not have. He had the truth. And the truth is powerful. It also attracts those who would like to deny it. Your enemies are exactly like that. They hate you, but they can't stop looking at you. They despise you, but they can't ignore you. Have you ever found that someone who spoke badly about you actually followed all your moves? That who criticized you in public then in private trying to behave like you? It is because their hatred is only a mask to hide admiration. The envy is like this. It hurts that someone has something you want, but instead of accepting it, the envious heart tries to destroy the other. That's exactly what happened to Joseph in the Bible. His brothers hated him, mocked him, wanted him far away. But why? Because he had a dream, and they knew, at the bottom of the heart, that God had something special for him. They did not bear the idea that Joseph was chosen by God, and so they decided to get rid of him. But in the end, who triumphed? Giuseppe. Because when God has a plan for your life, no enemy can stop it. Here is the truth. Who tries to destroy you, in reality, are studying you. Those who try to discredit you, after all, want what you have. And do you know what is the most powerful thing about everyone? You don't need to fight them. You don't have to answer their attacks. You don't have to fall into their game. Why? Because God fights for you. The Bible says, "Do not be afraid, and do not be discouraged in front of this great multitude, because the battle is not yours but of God." 2 Chronicles 20:15. Do not waste energy trying to make those who hate you change your mind. You don't have to demonstrate anything to anyone. Continue to walk with God, continue to do your path, and you will see that over time the truth will emerge alone. So what is the lesson? Don't worry about those who hate you. Don't waste time trying to understand why they are obsessed with you. Their same obsession is proof that your light shines stronger than they can bear. Go ahead. Be faithful to your mission. And remember, the weather will reveal everything. Even those who today criticize you, one day they could find themselves mentioning your words, admiring your journey, and wondering how they could spend so much time trying to destroy something that, after all, they wanted for themselves. Are you ready to continue your journey without getting distracted by those who observe you in the shadows? There is an ancient strategy, used for centuries by those who do not want to face the truth. Discredit the messenger. If they cannot fight the facts, they fight the person who brings them. If they cannot disassemble your message, they will try to disassemble your credibility. This is why they call you crazy, paranoid, fanatic. Not because you really are, but because it is the only way for them not to have to listen to what you say. It is a defense mechanism. The Bible shows us how this has always been the method used against the prophets, against the apostles, against Jesus himself. When you bring the truth, the world tries to silence you by labeling you as dangerous. If they called the master of Casa Beelzebub, how much more will those of his home call? Matthew 10:25. If they said that Jesus was possessed, what willn't they say about you? Look at the story. How many men and women of God have been called crazy before they were recognized for what they really were? Noah was mocked as he built the ark. People looked at him and laughed. This man has gone mad. He is building a huge ship for no reason. But when the flood came, who was the crowd? Noah, or those who made fun of him? In the same way, when you bring a deep message, When you reform to conform to the lies of the world, when you choose to follow Jesus Christ instead of bending to the mentality of the mass, they will label you. They will say that you are out of your mind. But time will show the truth. How many times has Jesus faced this type of accusation? The Pharisees said he had a malicious spirit, that he was out of his own, that he was subverting the order. Why? Because they could not deny the miracles he made. They could not deny the wisdom of his words. They could not ignore the authority with which he spoke. So what did they do? They tried to discredit him. It is the same tactic that they use against you. If they cannot contest your faith, they will dispute your health care. If they cannot deny your consistency, they will try to pass you through exaggerated for fanatic. But don't be fooled. This is the price of truth. The world has no problems with those who conform. The world has no problems with those who follow the crowd. The world has problems with those who think with their heads, with those who question the lies, with those who do not accept the imposed narrative. If you live according to the Bible, if you refuse to accept the compromises of the world, if you proclaim that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and life, John 14:6, wait to be called crowds. But remember this, it is better to be seen as crazy from the world than to be separated by God. And therefore, what will you do? Will you try to defend yourself, to explain yourself, to convince them that you are not crazy? Or will you continue to walk in the truth, letting time and God demonstrate who is right? The choice is yours. But remember, who is really crazy? He who walks with God or the one who refuses the truth not to have to change? Most people live with a constant fear. The fear of being excluded, of being refused, of being left alone. This is why many conform, even when they know that what they are doing is wrong. This is why they prefer to stay in toxic environments rather than risk being different. But you are different. You are not afraid of being alone. You don't need the approval of the mass, and this terrifies them. Why? Because it reveals their weakness. Their entire existence is built on the idea of belonging, of being accepted, to be part of a group. But you show that you can walk with God even without the support of men, and that's why they hate you. Look at the Bible. Moses spent years in the desert, far from everyone, before God called him to free his people. Giovanni Battista lived in the desert, far from society, feeding on wild honey and locusts, because his strength did not come from men, but from God. Jesus himself often retired to lonely places to pray. Yet modern society made us believe that isolation is something negative, that if you are alone, then you must be wrong. But God uses loneliness to prepare his children. The truth is this: whoever does not fear solitude is because he has found his strength in God, not in men. The Lord is my shepherd, I will miss nothing. Psalm 23:1. People who depend on the approval of others cannot understand who walks with confidence even when he is alone. For them, it is inconceivable that someone may feel good without the acceptance of the group. This is why they try to ridicule you, to make you feel wrong, to make you believe that you are the one out of place. But in reality, they are the ones who need confirmation. They are the ones who are afraid of being left alone. You are free. They are prisoners, and your freedom puts them uncomfortable. There is a powerful passage in the Bible that says, "Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the hasty, who does not stop in the way of sinners, and does not sit in the company of the ridicule." Psalm 1:1. This means that those who are chosen by God do not seek refuge in the crowd, do not need to follow the tendencies of the world. It does not depend on the opinion of others. The real believer knows that even when everyone abandoned him, God is with him, and this is frightening to those who have built their safety on people instead of God. So the question is, will you continue to walk in the truth, even if it means walking alone? Remember, you're not really alone. You are surrounded by the presence of God. And in the end, those who today look at you with suspicion, tomorrow will see that your strength comes from the only source that never betrays: faith in Jesus Christ. Are you ready to stay firm, even when the world turns your shoulders? The company is built on predictable patterns, From an early age, they teach us to follow a well-defined path. Study, work, obey the rules, do not ask too many questions, follow the mass. But what happens when someone refuses to join this script? What happens when an individual begins to think with his own head, to question what is imposed on him, to live according to the will of God rather than according to the dictates of the world? It happens that it becomes a threat. Because those who cannot be controlled are scary. Those who do not let themselves be manipulated is dangerous. And you are one of these. Look at Jesus. He did not follow the script that the religious society of his time wanted to impose on him. He did not seek the favor of the powerful. He did not bow to the rules imposed by men. He did not fear to tell the truth even when he was uncomfortable. He spoke with sinners, healed on Saturday, denounced the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, and for this he was hated. They will drive you away from synagogues. Indeed, the time will come that anyone who will kill you will believe to make a cult to God. John 16:2. Why does the world hate who does not conform? Because those who do not follow the script breaks the illusion that everything is under control. Think about how easy it is to manipulate the mass. Just tell him what to believe, what to fear, what to want. Most people follow the flow without even realizing it. But then someone arrives who does not let himself be fooled. Someone who says, "Wait for a moment. But is it really like that it must be?" And suddenly, the whole system trembles. If even a person only begins to think differently, he could wake up others. That's why they try to silence you. That's why they try to discredit you, to ridicule you, to make you feel wrong. Because your independence threatens their control. But you are not here to please the world. You are here to perform the will of God. Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by renewing your mind. Romans 12:2. It's not easy. You will be criticized, you will be judged, you will be marginalized. But what do you prefer? Live a comfortable life, aligned with lies, or face the truth and live freely? The prophets were not ordinary men. The apostles were not ordinary men. Nobody who has chosen God has ever had an easy life, because the truth is always uncomfortable for those who live in lie. So, will you continue to walk in the truth, even if it means to be seen as a danger? Will you continue to break the schemes, to challenge the system, to live according to the Word of God instead of according to the expectations of the world? Remember, real freedom is not to do what you want, but to do what is right in the eyes of God. And are you ready to live outside the script? There is a strange contradiction that those who walk in the truth experience sooner or later. You are respected and despised at the same time. On the one hand, people look at you with admiration because they see something different in you, a force that they don't have. On the other, however, this same admiration turns into envy, frustration, and even hatred. Why? Because your courage puts their cowardice bare. Because your consistency forces them to confront their weaknesses. And it is easier to hate you than to admit that they would need to change. This is what Jesus Christ experienced during his ministry. The crowds followed him, listened to him, surprised themselves of his miracles. Still, they were the same people who shortly after shouted, "Crucifigi," Mark 15:13. Have you ever been to a situation in which someone who first admired you suddenly started treating you coldly or hostility? Have you ever been praised in secret and then criticized in public? It is because the world does not know how to manage authentic people. Your presence itself is a problem for those who are satisfied with living in mediocrity. They look at your faith, your courage, your firmness, and inside them they know that they should be so too. But instead of changing, they choose to attack you. It is easier to say that you are too radical, too rigid, too different rather, than recognizing that perhaps they should have your own determination. The great men and women of God have always lived this reality. For example, Giuseppe was respected by Pharaoh and the powerful of Egypt, but was hated and sold by his own brothers. Davide was admired by Israel, but persecuted by Saul. Daniele was esteemed in the kingdom of Babylon, but his own colleagues tried to make him condemned to the lion pit. This is human nature. The world loves the idea of truth but hate those who embody it. Woe to you when all men say well of you. Luke 6:26. If everyone applauds you, there is something wrong. If the world loves you without reserve, it means that somehow you have adapted to it. But here is the point. The respect that people feel for you, even if hidden behind their contempt, is real. And in the end, the truth always wins. Even the Pharisees in their hearts knew that Jesus was different. Pilate also knew he was innocent. Even the opponents of the apostles over time saw that their word was inspired by God. For this reason, you must not try to be understood by everyone. You don't have to explain, justify yourself, convince anyone. Let your life speak for yourself. He continues to walk with God, and those who today despises you, one day he could find themselves mentioning your words without even realizing it. So how will you react? Will you seek the approval of men, or will you continue to walk in the will of God? Will you let yourself be injured by their contempt, or will you understand that their hatred is just a reaction to their own weakness? Remember, you are not here to be understood. You are here to perform the mission that God has entrusted to you. Are you ready to carry it on, even if it means to be respected and hated at the same time? They don't need to prove that you are wrong. They don't even have to try to discuss with you. The only thing they have to do is to ensure that nobody listens to you. This is how the system works. The strategy is not to deny the truth, but to isolate those who proclaim it. If you look at the story, you will see that it has always been like this. The prophets were persecuted not because they were mistaken, but because they disturbed the established order. The apostles were imprisoned not because they had broken the law, but because their preaching threatened the religious power of the time. Jesus was also crucified not because he had hurt, but because he said the truth. We don't need other tests, said the high priests, Matthew 26:65. They did not seek justice. They tried to silence the voice of truth, and today the system works in the same way. If you can't be controlled, you must be ridiculed. If you can't be ridiculed, you must be isolated. And if you can't be isolated, then they will try to make you look like a danger. This is why those who speak outside the choir are censored, are attacked, are labeled. The company needs the mass to remain asleep. And you, with your voice, with your faith, with your independence, you are a problem. Because they cannot predict your movements. They cannot control your actions. They cannot make you say what they want. So the only solution they have is to discredit you. But the question is it worth it? Is it worth dealing with isolation, criticisms, the accusations unjust, just to tell the truth? The answer is yes. Because the truth is not just an abstract concept, the truth is God himself. I am the way, truth, and life. John 14:6. If you choose the truth, choose God. If you choose the lie to avoid problems, choose the world. This is why you can't stop talking. This is why you cannot compromise. Because even if everyone turns your back on you, if the system also closes every door, God will be with you. And when God is with you, who can be against you? Look at the biblical history. Joseph was slandered and imprisoned, but God exalted him. Daniele was thrown into the lion's pit, but God protected him. Paulo was persecuted, but his word transformed the world. The system tried to discredit them, to destroy them, to delete them. But the truth cannot be canceled. The truth always triumphs. And so it will be for you. Today they can laugh at you, they can ignore you, they can try to silence you. But the day will come when they will be forced to admit that what you said was true. So what will you do? Will you fold yourself to avoid conflict? Will you try to please the system to be accepted? Or will you continue to walk with God, knowing that the world cannot stop those who are supported by heaven? The battle is hard, but the victory is certain. Are you ready to fight it? The world will tell you that you must always answer, always defend yourself, always explain to yourself. They will tell you that you have to justify your actions, convince others, try your value. But this is a trap. The truth does not need to be defended. The truth defends itself. That's why your silence is more powerful than words. When you choose not to react to provocations, not to respond to insults, not to lower yourself to the level of those who try to discredit you, you are showing a force that few understand. The Bible teaches us, the Lord will fight for you, and you will be calm about it, when Exodus 14:14. It is not your task to defend yourself, it is God who will do it for you. Look at Jesus in front of Pilate. The most powerful man in the region asked him to defend himself, to respond to the accusations, to say something to save himself. And what did Jesus did? He remained silent, not because it was weak, but because silence was the most powerful answer he could give. He did not need to justify himself because the truth would prove to be alone. But he didn't even reply a word to him, so that the governor was greatly surprised. Matthew 27:14. And today, if you choose to walk with God, there will be moments when silence will be your most powerful weapon. Your enemies expect a reaction. They want to see you angry. They want to make you lose their calm. They want you to play according to their rules. But when you remain silent, disarm them. Leave them confused, frustrated. Because silence is a declaration of strength. It means you don't need to lower yourself to their level. It means that your security does not come from words, but from your faith in God. Remember, the silence of a wise man makes more noise than a stolist screams. But be careful. Silence does not mean weakness. It means choosing your battles. It means knowing when to talk and when to let God do. Not to waste your energies trying to convince those who have already decided not to listen. Don't try to explain to those who have chosen not to understand you. The truth will come out on its own. The Bible says there is a time to keep silent and a time to speak. Ecclesiastes 3:7. Learn to discern the right moment. So, are you ready to let your silence speak for you? Are you ready to allow God to fight your battles? Remember, whoever is sure of their truth does not need to shout it. And you? Do you have enough faith to remain silent while the world screams against you? Today they deride you. Today they call you crazy. Today they look at you sufficiently, convinced that you are wasting your time, that you are fighting a useless battle. But time is the greatest detector of truth. What is ignored today, tomorrow will be impossible to deny. The same people who criticize you today, one day they will name your words without even realizing it. Because the truth does not need to be recognized immediately. He just needs to be said. In fact, there is nothing hidden that it should not be revealed, nor of secret that should not be known. Luke 8:17. Look at the story. The prophets were persecuted, but their words realized. Noah was made fun of, but then the flood came. Joseph was betrayed, but then ruled Egypt. Jesus was crucified, but then resources. The truth can be ridiculed, it can be fought, it can be suffocated for a time, but it cannot be destroyed. In the end, the truth always comes to the surface. And you, if you walk in the truth, you will see with your own eyes the moment when those who mocked you will realize how wrong they were. How many times have you heard someone say, "Were you right?" It is because people need time to accept what they don't want to see. Truth is not something that imposes itself, it is something that proves to be. Jesus knew it well. When he spoke, many did not understand. Many refused it. But over time, his words changed the world. The Pharisees themselves who condemned him saw his teaching spread like an unstoppable fire. The Romans themselves who crucified him, one day they kneel in front of the cross. And you? Are you ready to wait for your moment? Are you ready to endure criticisms knowing that one day the truth will be clear to everyone? Don't try to speed up the process. Don't try to convince those who are not ready. He continues to walk with God. He continues to proclaim the truth. And let time do its job. Because the day will come when those who criticize you today will find themselves face to face with reality. And at that moment, they will know. So, the question is, will you still be there, firm in your faith, when the world will realize that you were right? In the end, everything is reduced to this. The truth does not need approval to be real. No matter how many try to hide it, suffocate, or ridicule it, the truth is like a flame. The more you try to turn it off, the more strong it burns. And you are part of this flame. You were chosen to see beyond the illusions, to walk with God even when the whole world tries to stop you. But now I want to know from you. Have you ever lived a situation where you told the truth and have been attacked for this? How did you react? Write it in the comments, because your experience can help someone who is passing the same thing. If this message spoke to your heart, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so as not to lose other Transformers content. And watch the next video that will appear on the screen. There is something you absolutely must know. God bless you. See you in the next video.